Hello and welcome. Thank you for watching the recorded version of my normally live workshop for first-time home buyers. Welcome, welcome. You can see on the screen here, if you go to my website / first-time home buyers series, you'll find some handouts that might be helpful to download while you watch the video, or you can certainly do it afterwards. That's fine as well. But let's get started. I have a special appreciation for working with first-time home buyers. There are lots of advantages to owning your own home, and first-time home buyers are a special group of people because you guys have some things to learn. Of course, it's a whole new experience for you, and you also have some other challenges that a homeowner doesn't have. So like I said, I have a special place in my heart for working with first-time home buyers. I do have a motivation for this webinar, and let me show you this video will probably explain it the best. So a couple of housekeeping rules. Slide is in here because of when I do it live, but I do always encourage questions during the workshops. That's very important. If you've got a question, chances are somebody else in the workshop has the same question or hadn't even thought of it. I do ask, of course, my participants to be muted, but cats across the screen are okay. And then finally, I do have some extras at the end, and you'll get them here on this video as well. But let's get started. This is the simple outline of this workshop. It is an overview of everything that you need to know, but no real deep dives. We'll talk about that in the very end. First, we're going to talk about whether or not you should rent or buy. Sometimes renting is better. It depends on your situation. Then we're going to talk about the home buying process in 3 steps: 1, 2, 3. And at the end, we'll talk about next steps. After all of this information, what should you be doing next? First of all, should you rent or buy? Sometimes renting is an advantage and sometimes buying. It's better to rent if your lifestyle is going to be changing in the near future, either where you work or live, the size of your family is going to grow or reduce, etc. Those kinds of things. For instance, my son, Casey, moved to Chicago recently, but he's only going to be there for a short period of time, so it makes no sense for him to look for a home there. The other thing that is handy about renting is that somebody else gets to take care of all of your home maintenance. Keep in mind that you are paying for that somehow, some way with your monthly payment, but you don't have to deal with it. You just pick up the phone for your landlord. If those things aren't the case for you, then buying might be something that you're looking forward to. Buying gives you stability. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And it certainly helps you grow your financial position. Let's assume that you guys are here because you're interested in buying, and let's talk about it. Normally, I would do a poll at this time of the workshop, but for now, we're going to walk through this slide together. One of the number one challenges with renting is restrictions, landlord restrictions on everything from pets to parking to painting. When you get your own house, you have more freedom. You don't have those restrictions. Equity, really important here. This is one of my favorites about being a homeowner. Equity is the value of your home minus what you still owe on your mortgage. And over time, as you pay down your mortgage and as your house grows in value, your equity builds. And equity is a great thing. It's kind of like money in the bank. You can use it for buying your next home. You can use it for home remodeling, college expenses, all sorts of things that you can use your equity for. But that's a really important part of that financial stability that I talked about. And that third column, stability, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I know people who are comfortable in the house that they rent, and then all of a sudden the landlord, gosh, he just wants to sell it. And so they need to find a new place to live. Well, that's not stability. So you have more stability with your home, you're going to make decisions on when you move. Also, stability in your payments. We all know that rent does go up. When you get a mortgage, your mortgage stays pretty much the same. You can refinance it and get it lower, and you got a little tiny bit of increase in your property taxes. But other than that, you've got a steady payment for years and years and years and years. All right. So you've decided if you want to rent or buy. Let's move forward. Let's say that you want to buy. Home buying process, 1, 2, 3. The first step will be consultation or pre-approval with a lender. We will talk about that in great detail. The second step is finding the right house. How do you do that anyway? And third is the purchase process or escrow. So we'll certainly go through those. Home buying process number 1, and that is consultation or pre-approval. I recommend that you work with a lender that specializes in first-time homebuyer needs. They will understand your experience, your situations, and they also will have access to some special programs that are available just for first-time homebuyers. I say consultation or pre-approval because ideally this is a person that will sit down with you, no commitments, no credit checks right off the bat, but just have a conversation about the things that they will be looking for. You can find lenders in all shapes and forms, banks, brokers, you name it. I recommend that you ask around and get some referrals. I work with Joelle Bell very closely because she does specialize in first-time homebuyer needs. I'm going to use her slides. Normally she's here during our workshop and she's a wealth of information, but I'm going to skim through her slides really quickly just to give you an idea as to what some of the things are that she's talking about. She talks about a loan fingerprint. Each loan is unique to the individual. So that's one of the reasons why you need to have a conversation about your particular situation, because that's what she will be working with to find the best loan for you. The intake process. This is that conversation that you'll be having. Super important. How much can you afford? It all boils down to what are you comfortable paying every single month? That's what you want to start with. You also do want to talk about maintenance costs. We'll talk about that sometime at the end, and all those other expenses. So she works with you to start with, what do you want your monthly payment to be? And she'll go from there. There are things that she looks for when we go through pre-approval. When you do go house shopping, you do want pre-approval. That's a letter from your lender that says, we've checked this person out and we absolutely will stand behind a loan of this much money for this particular person. These are all the things that they will be looking at. And so they will ask for some documentation, some paperwork, all that good stuff, so that you can, these are the things that they'll look for. Fast and easy pre-approval, a little bit more about the documents that they will need. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it's very important, and she'll help you through all those steps. And then I was talking a little bit about the different types of loans. There are some great loans just for first-time home buyers. Oftentimes, the biggest challenge for first-time home buyers is that down payment. There are a lot of programs that help with that down payment. So when you sit down with Joelle or your lender, you're going to have that conversation about your particular situation and what type of loan is going to be best for you. As you can see over here on the screen, there are down payment assistance programs, first-time homebuyer programs, homebuyer education courses, etc. So really some fantastic options for you. I think this is one of the things that holds first-time homebuyers back, is that they don't realize that there are a lot of different loan programs out there that can help them get started. And that's why this initial conversation is so helpful. What is down payment assistance? This takes a lot of different forms. Sometimes your down payment assistance is a little itty bitty loan that you will also be paying off over time. Sometimes it's a grant and it goes away. That's one of the programs that I like the best, is the grants that go away after a period of time. If you've been in the house for 3 to 5 years or what have you, that down payment goes away with you not having to pay it off. Fantastic. That's why you need to talk to a lender. Oh, these are all some of the programs that, gosh, look at all that. First home, HFA. Home loan process. Some of these things I'm going to talk about in later as well, but you've got your loan application. That's some paperwork involved up in front for sure. We're going to talk about home inspections, home appraisals, homeowners insurance later at the very end. Yeah, we're going to talk about this later when we talk about escrow. So we're going to move on. Stay pre-approved. Once you have established your relationship with your lender and you've gotten that pre-approval, there are some things that you don't want to do to mess that up, such as you want to make sure that you are staying up on your bills and that you don't do anything to your credit score. You don't want to go out and buy a big boat. You don't want to quit your job. Keep things nice and steady and strong so that you can continue on through that process, the transaction process, and everything goes smoothly up all the way through the end. Home buying process number 2. Okay, you've gotten pre-approved. You've got a monthly payment anticipation that you are comfortable with, and so you are ready to begin the process. How do you find the right house, but also know that you're not missing on one that's out there someplace, and also that you're paying the right price? This is where I help you out with that part of the process. This video is going to explain a little bit about how we get started. All right, so that video tells a little bit about those basic 5 things that we talk about when we talk about the right house for you: location, size, condition, amenities, and of course, price. I start my clients with the fancy name is piece of paper exercise. You can take a piece of paper and you're going to make 3 columns: needs, wants, and why. And I'm going to explain why this is important. Needs are things that you absolutely have to have or absolutely have to not have in your new home. Wants are things that you could do without, but gosh, it would be nice if the home had it. And the why is the most important part of all, and I'll get to that. Let's say that you tell me and you write on your piece of paper, by the way, if there are 2 of you that are buying this house together, you will do this exercise separately because you have different needs and wants. We're going to work together on it, but I like you to do this exercise separately. The time that we spend on this exercise in the beginning saves an enormous amount of time and frustration in the future. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So you've said, I got to have a large yard, Dory. Very important. I'm going to say why. Is it because you have a dog that needs roaming space? Do you like to garden? Are you a landscaping person? Or is it for privacy? You don't want to be right next door to that house. Well, here's why the why is important. I can find a house with a large yard, but what if it has no sun because there are trees all around it and you're not going to be doing any gardening because there's no sun? Well, that wouldn't work, right? What if it's a large yard, but the homes on either side of you are still right next to you? The yard goes behind. Well, then it hasn't solved that important component of privacy. So that's why we talk about the whys, not only what you want, but why you want it. We go through this process with location, size, condition, amenities, and of course, there's price. Once we have spent the time on this very important piece of paper exercise, then we're going to use what we call the funnel. There are thousands of homes available right now in your area. You don't want to look at 1,000 homes, trust me. I have access to all of the information of all of those homes. This MLS database is really important. MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. All realtors have access to this. When we have someone that wants to sell their house, we put that information on the database. So they're all there. Sometimes there are new build homes. Those aren't in the MLS database. So we might want to consider new build. Maybe, right? And what about for sale by owner? These are homeowners that decide to sell their house not with a realtor, so therefore it does not go onto the MLS database. Well, to make sure that you're not missing out on some house that's out there, we take all of that information and we put it in the funnel. And guess what? That piece of paper exercise that we used, now we apply those filters. If a home does not meet that criteria, we're not even going to look at it. If it doesn't have that large yard for privacy, we're not even going to look at it. If it's out of your price range, we're not going to look at it. That's why that piece of paper exercise is so important and so helpful. So once we put all of these thousands of homes through the funnel and the filters of your important conditions for your home, I will ask you to rate them and keep a rolling top 3, if you will, in your mind. So when we see a house and you like it, I'll say, okay, great. Where does it fit in your top 3? Is it now number 1? Or is it number 3 and we kick out that other name, number 3, it's a number 4. So we're going to find the top 3 homes for you. Once we find those top 3 homes, I'm going to do an extensive comparative market analysis to make sure that you're going to be paying the right price. What are these properties really truly valued? A house that's been sitting on the market for quite some time and is maybe a little bit higher in your price range, well, you might be able to offer less. So I do a comparative market analysis to make sure that you know exactly what the price should be on those houses that are your top 3. All right. When you find the house that you want, you make an offer to the seller. The seller can accept your offer as is, they can reject it, or they can counteroffer. So they can say, well, we like your offer, but we'd like a little bit more money, or we'd like to have a longer escrow, or what have you. So let's say that you've made an offer and the seller has accepted your offer. Bingo, we are in home buying process number 3, the purchase process of escrow. I'm guessing that you've heard that word escrow. You might totally know what it means, but we're going to walk through it because it's a very important part of your home buying process. Escrow is a period of time, usually lasts about 30 days, where each party, the seller and the buyer, have things that they're going to be doing before we close escrow and you walk away with the keys. Let me explain a little bit about the escrow and title company. Escrow and title company in our area, they do both things, and I'll explain what that is. I consider them kind of like the Switzerland in the transaction. They are the unbiased middle entity that takes care of some very important things, and we work very closely with them. There are a couple of things that escrow and title does. Title is the title of the deed. It's the property and who owns it, and are there any liens on it, or are there any easements on it, or what have you. Escrow title company, they do some deep research to make sure that they know all of the information from a title perspective about that particular property. You want to make sure that when you buy that property, you have all the information about the title, if there's an easement, etc. The other thing that the escrow title company does is they are the keepers of the money. And we're going to talk about money on the next screen. Any money that comes and goes, it goes through escrow. We will have several conversations about the importance of dealing only with your escrow officer when talking about money. Wire fraud is a thing, so we keep you nice and protected there. Finally, the escrow company, they are the ones that you will be doing that wonderful signing at the end of the transaction. You'll be signing all your papers with them. So very, very important. All right, let's talk about a few things with escrow. Clients always want to know a little, especially first-time home buyers, want to know a little bit about how the money works. When do I pay what? So let's talk about that. When you make an offer and it's accepted, you're going to make an initial deposit at the beginning of the transaction, usually within 3 business days. The initial deposit is typically 1 to 3% of the offer price on the home. It's a lot of times it's 1, so I'm going to choose 1% because that's easier math. So let's say you're buying a house for $400,000. Your initial deposit would be $4,000, and that goes to that escrow company, and they just hold on to it. I was going to say something about that. Oh, that initial deposit, by the way, is part of that final money at the very, very end. So it goes towards the down payment, goes towards the closing costs, that kind of thing. So you make your initial deposit in the beginning. During escrow, you will be doing some inspections. We will talk about that. And you do pay for those. It runs usually ballpark around $500 plus or minus, depends on how many inspections you have done. The loan funds, all that money that you're borrowing from the lender, those actually transfer at the very end and they go straight into escrow. So they don't go into your bank account and then into escrow. They go straight into escrow at the end of the transaction. And also at the end of the transaction, you'll be paying your the rest of your down payment and your closing costs. So the big chunk of the money happens at the very end. Let's talk about contingencies. Contingencies protect you in this escrow period. In other words, contingencies, everything has to go right with these contingencies in order for the contract, for the transaction to close at the end. Chances for you to just check out the property a little bit better. You get to do some investigations. Sure, we walked through this house 2 weeks ago and you loved the kitchen, the yard was perfect, etc. But you want to know more about that house. So therefore you have a home inspection done, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And there are other things that you get to investigate about the property. If you find something from the investigations, the inspections that you don't like, and you say, whoa, 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 I would not have offered to pay for this house if I knew that. There are a couple of things we can do with that. First of all, everybody involved in this transaction would really like it to go well. The seller wants to sell their house. You like their house, and so you want to buy it. So there's a lot of room for negotiation. Oftentimes, if something comes up during an inspection, we can ask the seller to repair, change, improve, fix, whatever. Sellers are not obligated to do that. Typically, they like to cooperate. If for some reason there's something from the investigations that you don't like and we cannot negotiate a fix with the seller, then if we've done things the way we're supposed to and we've been adhering to the contract, you can cancel the contract. And as I said, if you've been doing everything according to the contract, then you will get your initial deposit back if everything goes right, which is usually the case. The next thing after you've been doing your investigations, well, guess what? The lender also wants to check out this house a little bit closer because they've approved you as a person that's going to make these payments, but they want to make sure that the house is legit because they have a big stake in the house, especially in the beginning. So they do what's called an appraisal, and that's kind of like a home inspection. This is a person that goes out to the home and they estimate the value. Is it worth that $400,000 that you offered? Here again, we have room for negotiation if the appraisal doesn't come back the way that we want it to, or if those negotiations don't work. This is another way that you could cancel the contract if you needed to. The other contingency is the loan contingency. You got pre-approved in the beginning. Remember how we talked about how it's important that you stay strong financially, you make your payments, you don't buy the boat, you don't quit your job. Well, what if you did quit your job or bought the boat or what have you, and the loan company said, oh, well, wait a minute, we can't loan anymore to you because you quit your job. Well, that's the loan contingency. If that were to happen, you could say, oh gosh, we ended up not being able to get our loan, so we have to cancel the contract. Sometimes it's important, there are contingencies about the sale of the buyer's property or the seller's property. So if you make an offer on a property and that seller still needs to find their next home, that's a contingency for them. If they can't find their next home, they can cancel the contract. But like I said, everybody really wants this to happen, so typically things go well. Let's talk a little bit about miscellaneous. Oh, I already talked about negotiations, and we can actually even negotiate timelines. So if your inspections were due by this date and for some reason we're running late, we can negotiate going a couple of days later or what have you. Let's say everything goes great, the contingencies are just fine, we've negotiated, all is good. We get our loan finalized, we have what's called close of escrow. It gets recorded at the county and you get the keys. So far, so good? All right. Home inspection process, when I do these live workshops, I have Tim Coddington, and he talks a little bit about the home inspection. What I would like to say is this. The home inspection is a wonderful opportunity to find out more about the house. It is also a white glove test of that house. So the report can be 60 pages long. It's got a lot of pictures in it. Don't get overwhelmed by the report. Every house has things that are wrong with it. The home inspection will usually break things down to a couple of different categories. Safety is very important. They'll talk about items that are safety issues. They'll talk about big ticket items or really, really important kinds of items that need to be repaired. And then they'll also identify all those honey-do things that you would normally do on the weekend, you know, painting this corner, replacing that outlet cover, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, the home inspection is a fantastic opportunity for you. Just don't get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Finally, I want to talk about home maintenance just a little bit. When you're looking for homes, you're going to see some that, whoops, sorry, you're going to see some homes that are in great condition and you're going to see some homes that are in not good condition. Remember when I talked about home equity? When you get into your home, I like to try to help my clients and encourage my clients to have regular home maintenance. Take really good care of it, then you're going to have a nice house to live in. And when you go to sell that house someday, it's in good condition. And so you can ask for a higher price. All right, we talked about should you rent or buy. We talked about the process 1, 2, 3. Get with a lender first, have some conversations. Let's look for a house for you, and then let's get you into contract and through escrow. So right now you've maybe made that decision. Where are you in that process that I just mentioned? If you want more information, the next screen is going to have some contact information. You can contact any of us with questions. This was an overall review of the process. You might want to dig a little deeper into some of these different aspects and get started. You can do it. If my main goal with this workshop is to inspire people to create a path for themselves towards homeownership, regardless of where you're at in that path, regardless of whether or not you use me as a realtor or Joelle as a lender. Just I really get excited about people being able to buy their own home. Next screen, this is our contact information. Joelle, give her a call, send her a text or an email. Contact me. When you go to my website, I've got a whole page there on first-time homebuyers, including lots of handouts. I also have a buyer's resource guide that includes all this information that we went through today and more. And if you would like to have that buyer's resource guide mailed to you, just contact me, shoot me a text, give me a call, and I can get that for you. And Tim, you can always call him and ask him questions about home inspections or what have you. I can't ask if you have any questions because you're not live, you're watching recording, but by all means, contact me, contact us, and let us know how else we can help you. Thank you again for coming. It was great to have you watching the video. Please share with your friends if you know of anybody else that would benefit from some of this information. Take care. Have a great day.